This vocab video is going to be a bit different because we're going to go a bit more in depth on each word and there won't be as many words in the list. It was compiled by Manhattan Prep, so it should be a good list, and the link is in the description. So instead of racing through, we're going to cover each word in a bit more depth to help you remember it. I'm going to try and come up with a mnemonic for every word to help you memorize the definition. And if you find this video at all helpful, please do leave a comment, leave a like, and let me know. The list starts with 4 basic GRE words, they call it, and then we'll move on to medium and then difficult. So the first word here is imminent, and the way I think of that is imminent means it's literally about to happen. You use the word imminent if you want to stress that something's not just happening soon, it's literally seconds or minutes away from happening. This means that imminent is much stronger than the word soon, and it's incredibly time sensitive. You might say that person is in imminent danger. It's an emergency. You really need to rush and help them. Let's see how Manhattan describes the word. Something that's imminent is about to happen in the near future. You might have heard the phrase imminent danger. That's a very common usage of the word. It refers to danger that's immediately present, as opposed to danger that might cause problems in the future. An approaching tidal wave is an imminent danger, while rising sea levels are less imminent. How can we remember that? Let's think. One way would be it sounds a lot like immediate. Imminent starts with IMM, just like immediate, imminent. So immediate means it's happening right now. It's right in our face. So imminent, likewise, it's about to happen. It's so close to happening. So both words convey a strong sense of urgency, and that would be a great way to remember the word imminent. Let's do the next word, extraneous. I think of extraneous as meaning not particularly relevant. It's extra. It's not core and intrinsic and essential. It's almost the opposite of essential. It shouldn't really be there. It's extra. It's superfluous. Is a great synonym of extraneous. And of course, one good way to remember that would be it begins with the word extra. It's above and beyond. It's not core, it's not essential, it's extra. How do they describe it? A long, dull textbook might contain a lot of extraneous information that's not really relevant to the topic. Extraneous means irrelevant, unrelated. What about the next one? Erroneous. That means containing an error. It's wrong. Of course, a good way to remember that is it starts off with the same 4 letters as the word error. It's erroneous. What do they say? This word is related to the word error. In fact, it means wrong. One common phrase is erroneous judgment. An erroneous judgment is an incorrect one. For instance, you might make an erroneous judgment of someone's character based on their appearance. Erroneous, containing an error. Won't spend as much time on that one because it's fairly obvious the way you would remember that with the word error at the beginning. Insular is a good one. Insular means you keep to yourself. If a country is insular, it keeps to itself. If a person is insular, they stay wrapped up and staying with themselves and not really speaking to other people, not really involving themselves with other people. You might have heard of insulating your building. And I think that's a great way to remember this word. If you insulate your building, you wrap it up, you keep it protected from the outside. And I think that is similar here. Another way of remembering it would be it begins with in. You're staying in, not really mingling with other people that much, keeping in the warmth. Let's see how they describe it. This word refers to a group of people, such as a community or family. An insular group is one that doesn't welcome people or ideas from the outside, doesn't mingle with those who don't share its ideas. The word comes from the same root as island and peninsula. I didn't know that. Think of an insular group as being similar to an island, difficult for new people and ideas to come in and out. So that's a great addition to what I was saying. It's not just keeping to themselves, it's also not really letting others in. So it all revolves around that beginning, the IN at the beginning, which would really help you to remember it. Now we're going to move on to medium level words. Let's do prosaic. Prosaic means dull or boring or mundane. And the way I remember that is that there's two types of writing generally: prose and poetry. Prose is normal kind of everyday writing, whereas poetry, obviously you have rhyming and you have iambic pentameter and it's fancy and it sounds lovely. What does prose sound like? It just sounds normal. So if something is prosaic, it's the opposite of being poetic. It doesn't really sound that interesting. It's kind of boring, monotonous. A prosaic job, for example, is one that's nothing special, not particularly inspiring. Prosaic text is one that's kind of boring. By using that word, you're kind of hinting that it's not poetic, not interesting, a bit boring. Let's see what they say. Something that's prosaic is ordinary, everyday. This word is the opposite of glamorous or exciting, and could be a synonym of quotidian or humdrum. It comes from the same root as the word prose, as I was saying. Prose is ordinary, everyday writing, as opposed to poetry. So the way of remembering this definition that I would use is prosaic starts with the same four letters as prose, and prose is one of the two main types of writing. You have poetry, which is beautiful, interesting to listen to, and you have prose, which is formal, usually like non-fiction kind of writing, with strict grammar and all the rest of it. Prose or prosaic, ordinary, everyday, nothing special. What about the next word? Partial. Now there are two definitions that come to my mind when I see the word partial. First is the more common, I only partially ate the cake. I only ate a part of the cake. And the way to remember that definition is, of course, part. It begins with P-A-R-T. I had a partial slice of the overall pie. Only a bit of the slice, not the whole slice. I'm partially finished with my homework. Only partly, not fully. But the other definition, which is also very common for the GRE, is that someone who is partial is biased to one side. So if you're impartial, that means you're fair and unbiased. That's impartial. But if you're partial, you're partisan. You're favouring one party over the other. And of course you can remember that definition because the first 5 letters, party, is like you're in favour of one party over the other party. And both of those definitions could be tested on the GRE, and both of them have letters in the word that will give clues to those definitions. Part, as in you're having part of the cake, and party, you're favouring one party over another. Let's see what they say. This looks like a straightforward word, but it's on this list because of its second definition. Partial can refer to part of a whole, as we were talking about, but it can also serve as the opposite of the word impartial. In that sense, partial means biased, favouring one side over the other. Judges are supposed to be impartial. A partial judge will probably do a poor job because it would favour one party over the other. You can associate this word with the words partisan and prejudice, which are near synonyms. I don't read these paragraphs before I give my definitions, but you see how closely we agree on the definitions here. Ubiquitous. Ubiquitous means it's everywhere. You see it literally everywhere you go. How could we remember that? I can think of 2 ways to remember that definition. If you've heard of UBI, which is Universal Basic Income, where every single person should get a set amount of money per year, then that could help you remember the definition, because ubiquitous starts with the 3 letters UBI. So ubiquitous means universal, appearing everywhere, and UBI means Universal Basic Income. If you don't know about UBI, then maybe that next bit here in the middle, quit. You can't quit something that's ubiquitous. It's literally everywhere. It's unquittable. It's ubiquitous. You can't get away from it. You can't quit from it. It's ubiquitous. So either of those 2 mnemonics could help us to remember the word. Let's see what they say. A ubiquitous thing is something that shows up frequently and is all over the place. For instance, coffee shops and rain are both ubiquitous in Seattle. Smartphones and the internet are ubiquitous. You can't quit them. They're just everywhere. An experience or phenomenon can be described as ubiquitous. A ubiquitous danger is one that's always lurking around the corner, no matter what you're doing. I don't want to mislead you. I didn't mean you can't quit it in the sense of it's addictive. I meant like you can't get away from it because it's everywhere. It's pervasive. It's always lurking around the corner, as they say, no matter what you're doing. Okay, next one. Propagate. Propagate means to spread. Spread an idea, spread a species, anything that involves spreading out and expanding and multiplying. Usually I think of it in terms of propagating an idea across different populations and communities. Now, how would we remember that? Propagate. I'd have to think about that. How can we remember that that means to spread? Propagate. I guess if you're going out to tell a load of people, you'd have to walk through a gate out of the city to spread the news. Propagate means to go out through the gates and spread the news. Maybe that could help. If you like that one, leave a like. If you don't, let me know in the comments of a better way to remember propagate. Let's see what they say. This word literally refers to breeding something, such as an animal or plant. However, the GRE often uses it in a more metaphorical sense, as most people do. To propagate an idea or a belief is to spread it widely around to other people. Propagate is a synonym of disseminate, promulgate, spread the news, persuade people around the world. And to do that, you're going to have to leave your city out through the gate, the propagate, and go and spread the word. Okay, let's do the remaining difficult words. They call them tricky. I think there are 4 words here, and that's the end of this vocab list. As I say, if you like these more in-depth explanations, please do leave a comment and let me know. Quotidian means kind of boring, or more specifically, every day. It happens every day. Nothing out of the ordinary. Quite similar to prosaic as we saw before. I think quotidian carries more of a connotation of it's going to happen every day. Like brushing your teeth is quotidian. Or don't upset my quotidian rhythms, as in don't change my daily habits. Or he was used to his quotidian routines. He was used to doing the things he did on a daily basis. So it's got that daily aspect to it. And I wonder if we can pick out that dian. Almost kind of sounds like daily, right? Quotidian, dayan. So it's like something every day. Quotidian, every day. It's a bit of a stretch, but that's how I might remember it. This word is the big brother of prosaic, which we saw earlier in the list. Literally, it refers to something that happens every day. However, it is typically used to describe something mundane, ordinary, or unglamorous. Maybe something like, you can quote me, I do this every day. Quotidian, quote me, I do it daily. I don't know, I'm stretching here, but you can help me out in the comments. Restive. Restive basically means restless, fidgeting, you can't settle down. You often describe a population as being restive if they're ready to rebel against their rulers. They're not settled, they're not calm, they're restless, they're restive. Now normally that would be easy to remember because it starts with rest, but then also rest means to relax and calm down. So you have to remember that the rest in restive refers to restlessness, fidgeting, being unable to settle down. Let's see what they say. Restive tricks a lot of GRE test takers because of its resemblance to the words rest and restful, as I was just saying. However, restive is actually related to restless. It refers to something or someone that's fidgety, on edge, tense, that's a good way of saying it, unable to keep still. This is what I was saying. You may see this word used to refer to a crowd or a population. Crowd that's starting to lose its cool and become confrontational. So restive, just remember restless. Pernicious, a great word, basically means harmful, bad for you. A pernicious lie is one that is really damaging, toxic. Now, how to remember that? Pernicious. Pernicious sounds like vicious. Now, vicious is a bit strong, and vicious means quite aggressive and violent. But it's similar in the sense of it's harshly negative. Something that's vicious, you're not complimenting it. You're saying that's really bad, nasty, usually in a violent sense. But something that's pernicious is bad and nasty, but in more of a psychological, undermining kind of sense. Let's see what they say. This word means harmful. However, it's worth your while to learn exactly how it's used. Something that's pernicious isn't just harmful, it's typically harmful in a particular way. It's not outright dangerous or violent, like we saw with vicious, but rather it causes a subtle or gradual type of harm. A blow to the head isn't pernicious, but something like heart disease or the influence of social media might be. A good synonym for pernicious is insidious. It gets in. Just like that word insidious, it creeps in, does damage, is toxic. You might have heard that some comment sections or some social media is toxic because they get into your head and they undermine your confidence. That's kind of pernicious because it's not a direct, vicious assault on you, but it's similarly nasty and bad. That's pernicious. And the final word, diffident. I like this word because I've already thought about an easy mnemonic for it. Diffident is someone who finds it difficult to be confident. Diffident, difficult to be confident. They're shy, timid, they don't like confrontations or raising their voice. They are diffident. They find it difficult to be confident. They're not particularly confident or outspoken. And I hope you agree that is an amazing way to remember the word. Diffident is someone who finds it difficult to be confident. This word refers to a type of personality. A diffident person rarely speaks up. He or she might be described as timid, reluctant. And what I wanted this video to accomplish is to show you that it's not just about learning definitions. It's about creating ways for your mind to remember those definitions for the rest of your life. If I had to take a guess, maybe only 30% of words that you look up a definition for, you'll remember without a mnemonic. But with a mnemonic, it might be something like 80%. And even if I'm off by a wide margin, there is a huge gap. And that huge gap over the weeks and months of your study, let alone the years and decades of your life, will add up to hundreds or thousands of new words that you would have otherwise forgotten. If you've learned any new words or any new techniques from this video, do let me know, and otherwise I shall see you in the next video.